जुगो श्री जीव गोपाल को कृष्ण कीर्तन गान नर्तन परो प्रेमामृतां पनिधि अक्वातो नमसे समण्डलपति शनि सदा तुच्छम भूत्वा दीनगणेश करुणया कोऽपि न कण्ठासितौ तत्त्वातु नमसे समण्डलपति शनि.
Good evening, and welcome to Caitanya-caritāmṛta Wednesday evening class, staged by the Prabhupada Disciples Association. We're a global network of devotees with a focus on the reading of the unedited, unchanged books of the Founder-Ācārya of the International Society A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. We also focus on our position as Prabhupada disciples. That Prabhupada is Jagat Guru. He is the Diksha and Siksha Guru for all of us. And we take shelter of his devotional service as the means for going back to Godhead in this lifetime. So we're moving ahead today. We're reading from the original diary of Srila Prabhupada on the Jaladuta. And then after this, we finish this, I have the other diary of him in the early days in New York City. In the beginning, it's called. And we'll read through that. We'll watch how Prabhupada managed himself personally in dealing with all kinds of matters to advance the mission of Lord Chaitanya and the order of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. So we're at the Prabhupada has arrived in New York, and then on the 25th day, he sent a letter. That's Saturday, the 25th of September. That's where we'll read from. Today, I have sent a letter to Captain Arun Pandya. We don't have the contents of the letter, but he was the captain of the ship that came across the ocean, the Jaladuta ship. And in the bottom corner here of this diary, I'll show you this. Here you can see Prabhupada where he was staying. He went from New York City, he went to Butler, Pennsylvania, with the Agarwal family, I believe it is. And they didn't have any accommodation for him at his house, at their house, so they rented a room for him at the local YMCA. The YMCA building in Butler, Pennsylvania. A typical room there, because there was no place for Srila Prabhupada to sleep at the Agarwal home. They rented a room for him here, and he would walk the 6 or 7 blocks to their house for his daily meals and other activities. On October 18th, there's an important note here. So he got off the boat on September 19th. He was greeted and taken to Butler, and he stayed for just basically 1 month. So on October 18th, he left Butler for New York for wider preaching opportunities. Logical. He was on a mission. How much can you do? And it's a small town like Butler. Not much. Here, it's interesting. I'll show you these pictures. I hope everyone can see them. Venkat, are they visual?
Yeah, we can see when you hold it up.
Okay, thank you. So here is the beautiful cover for the original Bhagavatams that he had printed in India and brought on the ship for sale in America. And so we can see from the beginning of his this Leela, and prior to that, he was busy distributing books, magazines and hardcover books now that he had, because these would be the real instruments for converting people from the material existence they were in to the spiritual existence that he was presenting to them. So it shows here in the book here on Thursday the 11th, the Paragon Book Gallery, New York, received 25 sets from Gopal. And he sent 5 sets personally, 10 through Orientalia, and 25 through Paragon. So the total was that he got out was 40 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. I had the original copies, and somehow or other, as life goes on, you make mistakes and you don't preserve them. But I was fortunate enough to get this version. We hope to produce this in the future for everyone as our plan for all the books that Prabhupada originally published. So on Sunday, okay, so this already moves along quite far. He didn't use the diary much from the September up into November. So that was, excuse me, Thursday, the November 11th. So that's the next entry. And then on Sunday, November 14th, he has a meeting with Krishna K. Dundip. And the address was 152 West 13th Street, New York at 5 p.m. So he's written that in his beautiful handwriting style. And then further on Sunday, November 28th, there's a meeting at New India House. And maybe Yaśodā knows, I guess it was a lecture that he gave on God consciousness under the auspices of the Tagore Society of New York. So this finishes that first section. I'm going to show you here how he organized himself. Take a look. These are all the contact lists. This was old style. I think many of us here that are older also did the same thing. Write down everyone's phone numbers and addresses in a book. Nowadays, that's obsolete in a way. So I still write manually myself as my old system. But you can see all these, he has all these telephone numbers of people, some people crossed off, and telephone numbers. Now he has a memorandum. It's quite interesting. Take a look at this. This is fantastic. Can we see that, Balara? Or
maybe
can you see that okay?
Farther away from the screen?
Venkat, yeah? How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you'll see here, everyone, that here Prabhupada's listed up the 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam. So it's interesting to note that this was in Prabhupada's mind, very, very much a vivid plan of his to continue translating the Bhagavatam from the first canto moving forward. So he has, here's the titles. This is the way a great promoter operates. He writes out the plan and then he implements it. So the memorandum says, chapter 1, or the first canto, the absolute truth. Second canto, symptoms of objectivity. Third canto, creation of the material world. Fourth canto, the sub-creators. Fifth canto, the planetary system. Sixth canto, Lord the Protector. Seventh canto, the creative impetus. Eighth canto, change of manpower. Ninth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the science of God. 10th canto, Krishna, the cause of all causes. Oh, yes. 11th canto, the path of liberation. And 12th canto, the summum bonum. So here at Prabhupada, it's like designing any kind of great project. You have to have these headings, and then you fill out the blanks. Then you fill it in. So you set the plan of action, and he started like that in the memorandum, that he's going to do these, the entire Srimad Bhagavatam as his main project, and put in the titles for what he proposed would be for each canto. So we're going to move forward with the reading of the poems that Prabhupada wrote on the Jaladutta on Saturday morning at our Bhagavad Gita class. We're going to turn the session over to our godbrother Vinkat Prabhu. He's going to read a section from Prabhupada's early writings in the 50s. Vinkat, please.
Sure, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Let me just share that. So, yes, last week or last class, we started reading the League of Devotees prospectus.
Yes.
And let me share it. So we can continue reading that.
Please.
So we were reading how, so Srila Prabhupada was saying how, modern life it's simply engagements of animal life, simply by eating, sleeping, fearing, and sense gratifying. And then he went on to give various examples. So eating, varieties of palatable dishes, sleeping, constructing massive and attractive palatial buildings and resting places, then fearing, atomic bomb, and then sense gratifying, by all these cinematographic pictures, phonographic sounds, wireless radios, and then improving dressing method of the fair sex, like that, and all to sell different products. So that was just a summary. And this was interesting. He said, and to maintain this animal type of civilization for the benefit of a handful men of demoniac principles, 95% people of the human race is chained up to become victims of this wrong type of civilization, devoid of spiritual value. So now we'll continue. There is no peace even now in the villager's life, because the innocent villagers are also being attracted by the glamour of the polished type of animal civilization, and that also for the benefit of 5% contending polished demons. As such, 95% of the innocent human being is suffering from the pangs of this animal civilization. The League of Devotees stands to protect both this 5% polished demons as well as the 95% innocent victims for real freedom and blessed life. It does not propose to stop the animal necessities of life, namely eating, sleeping, fearing, and sense-gratifying processes, but it proposes to check the one-sided imbalance of life without consideration of spiritual value. Life is, after all, spirit, and upon the spiritual foundation, subtle matters like intelligence and mind, and gross matters like the material engagement of body, have developed according to one's desire and inclination, the law of karma. This desire and inclination has overpowered the spirit soul in such a manner that it cannot get rid of the influence of the external energy of the Absolute Truth by its own effort without enlightenment. It's a mistake to identify spirit soul either with the gross matters, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, or with the subtle matter, mind, intelligence, and ego, because both of them are produced of the external energy of Godhead. Living entity being the product of spiritual divine nature or internal energy of Godhead, spirit, soul, or living entity is qualitatively equivalent with Godhead. It is not therefore possible to manufacture such living being in the laboratory of material science. We need now to open a laboratory of spiritual science, where research in the divine nature of living entity can be made and thereby ascertain the real necessities of the spirit soul, which governs the material world. This can be evolved for the peace and prosperity of the living being, who is in essence spirit and not matter. Let us now find out the divine nature of living entity. The process of manipulating such spiritual laboratory to make research in the divine nature of living being is clearly defined in the Bhagavad Gita, and its practical demonstrator is Lord Chaitanya. The League of Devotees wants to bring in practical use these two big transcendental subjects in prominence for the benefit of human society at large. The League of Devotees considers, on the authority of the Bhagavad Gita, every living being as part and parcel of Godhead. Every living being is impregnated by Godhead himself in the womb of mother material nature, and thus it becomes possible to see the different living entities born in the material world. Every living being is therefore a divine child of the Almighty Father, and all of them, never mind in whatsoever form they may be, are divine brothers in the kingdom of God. Having forgotten that transcendental relation, eternally fixed up, the living entity is struggling for existence in the material world, bewildered with the result that in every step of life he is baffled in his attempt to become a happy creature. He does not know that such material attempt for existence will never be successful, and it is only by divine attempt that one can eternally be free from the bondage of birth, death, and insufficiency. I think we can stop there for today.
Yes, excellent. So we can see that Prabhupada has been situated in his mission all his life. And these writings are prophecies to predict his future activities and also our future activities as his disciples. So the same message that he was delivering back then is the same message for all of us here today, that our work is to help Srila Prabhupada deliver the message of truth, the truth to the conditioned souls, not only within his movement, but outside of his movement. So we'll move forward now with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava by Srila Prabhupada, and then the class by Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu on the Caitanya-caritāmṛta reading that we're having, that we started some months ago. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki jai.
Jai.
Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Jai.
Ācārya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem
Jai.
Siko Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Girivardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories to the Assembly Lord.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the Assembly.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. We'll be reading from the non-adulterated original Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the 1974-1975 version. Today we are reading from Adi Lila, chapter 2, text 13, on page 101. Charamachakshe deke yoichi surya nirvishesha, jnana marge loete nare krishnera vishesha. Charamachakshe, by the naked eye, deke, one sees, yaiche, just as, surya, the sun, nirvishesha, without variegatedness, jnana marge, by the path of philosophical speculation, laite, to accept, nare, not able, Krishnera, of Lord Krishna, Vishesha, the variety. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. As with the naked eye, one cannot know the sun except as a glowing substance. Merely by philosophical speculation, one cannot understand Lord Krishna's transcendental varieties. Text 14. Yasya prabhavatu jagadandakoti koteshvashesha vasudhadi vibhuti bhinnam tad brahma nishkalamanantamashesha bhutam Govinda purusham tamaham bhajami. Yasya, of whom? Prabha, the effulgence. Prabhavataha, of one who excels in power. Jagat anda, of the universes. Koti kotishu, in millions and millions. Ashesha, unlimited. Vasudha adi, with planets, etc. Vibhuti with opulences, becoming variegated. Tat, that, Brahma, Brahman, Nishkalam, without parts, Anantam, unlimited, Ashesha Bhutam, being complete, Govindam, Lord Govinda, Adipurusham, the original person, Tam, him, Aham, I, Bhajami, worship. Translation by His Divine Grace. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which is absolute, complete, and unlimited, and which displays the varieties of countless planets with their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. Purport. This verse appears in the Brahma Samhita 540. Each and every one of the countless universes is full of innumerable planets with different constitutions and atmospheres. All these come from the unlimited non-dual Brahman or complete whole, which exists in absolute knowledge. The origin of that unlimited Brahman effulgence is the transcendental body of Govinda, which is offered respectful obeisances as the original and supreme personality of Godhead. Text 15. Koti koti brahmande ye brahmera vibhuti, se brahma govindera hayanga kanti, koti, tens of millions, koti, tens of millions, Brahma ante, in universes, ye, which, Brahmera, of Brahman, Vibhuti, opulences, say that, Brahma, Brahman, Govindera, of Lord Govinda, high is, Angakanti, bodily effulgence. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The opulences of the impersonal Brahman spread throughout the millions and millions of universes. That Brahman is but the bodily effulgence of Govinda. Se Govinda bayamiti hon morapati, tanhara prasadi morai srishti shakti, say that Govinda, Lord Govinda, bhaji, worship, ami, I, tehon, he, mora, my, pati, Lord, tanhara, his, prasadi, by the mercy, mora, my, high, becomes, srishti, of creation, shakti, power. Translation. I, Brahma, worship Govinda. He is my Lord. Only by his grace am I empowered to create the universe. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Although the sun is situated far away from the other planets, its rays sustain and maintain them all. Indeed, the sun diffuses its heat and light all over the universe. Similarly, the Supreme Sun Govinda diffuses his heat and light everywhere in the form of his different potencies. The sun's heat and light are non-different from the sun. In the same way, the unlimited potencies of Govinda are non-different from Govinda himself. Therefore, the all-pervasive Brahman is the all-pervasive Govinda. Bhagavad Gita clearly mentions that the impersonal Brahman is dependent upon Govinda. That is the real conception of absolute knowledge. Text 17. Munayo vatavasanaha shramana urdvamantinaha brahmakyam dhamate yanti Shantaha Sannyasino Amalaha Munayaha, saints. Vatavasanaha, naked. Shramanaha, who perform severe physical penances. Urdva, raised up. Mantinaha, who is Semana. Brahma-ācyam, known as Brahmaloka. Dhamma, to the abode. Te, they. Yanti, go. Shanta, equipoised in Brahman. Sannyasinaha, who are in the renounced order of life. Amalaha, pure. Translation. Naked saints and sannyasis who undergo severe physical penances, who can raise the semina to the brain, and who are completely equipoised in Brahman, can live in the realm known as Brahmaloka. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:647, Vatavasanaha refers to mendicants who do not care about anything material, including clothing, but who depend wholly on nature. Such sages do not cover their bodies, even in severe winter or scorching sunshine. They take great pains not to avoid any kind of bodily suffering, and they live by begging from door to door. They never discharge their semina either knowingly or unknowingly. By such celibacy, they're able to raise the semina to the brain. Thus, they become most intelligent and develop very sharp memories. Their minds are never disturbed or diverted from contemplation on the absolute truth, nor are they ever contaminated by desire for material enjoyment. By practicing austerities under strict discipline, such mendicants attain a neutral state transcendental to the modes of nature and merge into the impersonal Brahman. Text 18. Atmantaryami yandri yoga shastri kai seha govindera amsha vibhuti yehai anta antaryami, indwelling supersoul. Yanri, who? Yoga Shastri, in the scriptures of yoga. Kaya is spoken. Seha, that. Govindera, of Govinda. Amsha, plenary portion. Vibhuti, expansion. Ye, which. Hai, is. Translation. He who is described in the Yoga Shastras as the indwelling supersoul, Atma Antaryami, is also a plenary portion of Govinda's personal expansion. Purport by Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is by nature joyful. His enjoyments or pastimes are completely transcendental. He is on the fourth dimension of existence. For although the material world is measured by delimitations of length, breadth, and height, the Supreme Lord is completely unlimited in his body, form, and existence. He is not personally attached to any of the affairs within the material cosmos. The material world is created by the expansion of his Purusha avatar, who directs the aggregate material energy in all the conditioned souls. By understanding the three expansions of the Purusha, a living entity can transcend the position of knowing only the 24 elements of the material world. One of the expansions of Mahavishnu is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, the supersoul within every living entity. As the supersoul of the total living entities of the second Purusha is known as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. As the creator or original cause of innumerable universes, or the first Purusha, who is lying on the causal ocean, is called Mahavishnu. The three Purushas direct the affairs of the material world. The authorized scriptures direct the individual souls to revive their relationship with the supersoul. Indeed, the system of yoga is the process of transcending the influence of the material elements by establishing a connection with the Purusha known as Paramatma. One who has thoroughly studied the intricacies of creation can know very easily that this Paramatma is the plenary portion of the Supreme Being Sri Krishna. Text 19. Ananta spatikeya echeka surya bhashe, toeche jive govinda ramsha prakashe, Ananta, unlimited, spatike, in crystals, yaeche, just as, eka, one, surya, sun, bhashe, appears, taiche, just, so, jive, in the living entity, govindera, of Govinda, amsha, portion, prakashe, manifest. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. As the one sun appears reflected in countless jewels, so Govinda manifests himself as Paramatma in the hearts of all living beings. Purport. The sun is situated in a specific location, but is reflected in countless jewels and appears in innumerable localized aspects. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although eternally present in his transcendental abode, Goloka Vrindavana, is reflected in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. In the Upanishad, it is said that the Jiva, living entity, and Paramatma, Supersoul, are like two birds sitting in the same tree. The Supersoul engages the living being in executive fruitive work as a result of his deeds in the past. But the Paramatma has nothing to do with such engagements. As soon as the living being ceases to act in terms of fruitive work and takes to the service of the Lord Paramatma, coming to know of his supremacy, he is immediately freed from all designations. And in that pure state, he enters the kingdom of God known as Vaikuntha. The Supersoul, Paramatma, the guide of the individual living beings, does not take part in fulfilling the desires of the living beings, but he arranges for their fulfillment by material nature. As soon as an individual soul becomes conscious of his eternal relationship with the Supersoul and looks only towards him, he at once becomes free from the entanglements of material enjoyment. Christian philosophers who do not believe in the law of karma put forward the argument that it is absurd for one to accept the results of past deeds of which he has no consciousness. A criminal is first reminded of his misdeed by witnesses in a law court, and then he is punished. If that is complete forgetfulness, why should a person be punished for his past misdeeds? The concession of Paramatma is an invincible answer to these fallacious arguments. The Paramatma is the witness of the past activities of the individual living being. A man may not remember what he has done in his childhood, but his father, who has seen him grow through different stages of development, certainly remembers. Similarly, the living being undergoes many changes of body through many lives, but the Supersoul is also with him and remembers all his activities despite his evolution through different bodies. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances, we all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshantarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshatah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishi Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we see here that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, after explaining the position of the Brahma or Brahman effulgence in considerable detail with various citations from Brahma Samhita, Srimad Bhagavatam, now he's starting to proceed to the Paramatma explanation. An interesting story, when Srila Prabhupada brought his disciples to India in 1970, devotees had never been to the Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela is a yearly fair that takes place in the month of January in Prayag or Allahabad, at the confluence of the Ganges, the Yamuna, and the unseen Saraswati rivers. And what happens there is that every 12 years there is what is called a Purna Kumbha. It's the biggest fair. It's very, very big. So in 1970, Prabhupada brought his disciples there, and as Westerners, we had never been exposed to such a massive congregation of human beings and devotees. I mean, there's literally more than 1 million, sometimes 2 million people that come there. They come from all over India, all the villages everywhere. And one of the features of this place is actually described in this text number 17 about naked saints and sannyasis. So some devotees reported to Prabhupada, and they were laughing that there was some babas or some saints, they're almost completely naked. Some of them are completely naked, and they're covered with ashes. And some of them they have this big Ramanuja tilak. Some of them have Shiva tilaks. But devotees found it very strange that you get these people who never see anything like this in the West. You're not going to find this in Australia or America or Canada or in Europe. You do not see human beings like this. And Prabhupada explained, he says, you have to be very careful. Do not laugh at these people. He says, you do not know, but some of these sadhus, first of all, they're celibate, very strict brahmachari, Naishtika brahmachari, but some of them take their baths every day in the 4 dhams, in Badrinath, in Dwarka, Jagannath Puri, Rameshwaram, every day, by their mystic power. Do not laugh at them. And devotees were shocked, because some of them have got the weirdest look you can imagine. Another feature here, which during the Muslim invasions in India, there was some Muslims that tried to go and destroy near Mathura. There's a place called Gokula, which is the place where Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, took little baby Krishna across the river of Yamuna. It's a very sacred place in the land of Braja. So what happened is that the Muslims tried to destroy that holy place. And what happened is these Naga Babas, as they're called, they assembled an army of about 3,000, 4,000 of them. And I don't know It's somewhat because they have these trishuls. Like Lord Shiva has got this trident, which is a long, like 8, 9, 10 feet with spikes, sharp as a razor. With carrying that, and they're fearless. These people are totally fearless. They're completely transcendental. They're not afraid of that. And they chased away and defeated the Muslim army at that time. And this also happened in Varanasi, where they attacked some sacred temple there. And these Naga Babas repulsed. Even some of them died. They did not care. Their idea is, we're going to protect these sacred dhams, these sacred places, for the service of Vishnu. So just a little interesting story here. And before we open the discussion, I want to mention another story in connection with this text number 14 that Prabhupada quotes from the Brahma Samhita. On text number 14 in the second line, there's 2 Sanskrit words called Vibhuti Binnam. And Prabhupada translated that with regards to their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. In 1971, we were in Calcutta, in Bhaktivedanta Swami and a couple of other devotees. They went in Prabhupada's room because we had been discussing about the issue whether or not the scientists had really gone to the moon. And so I asked Prabhupada the question, being prodded by some of the other devotees, Prabhupada, what is your final opinion whether or not they really went to the moon? So Prabhupada, as he often would do, he would sit very relaxed, and he would put his hand on his knee and with his beads. And he said, as far as I'm concerned, you cannot go there. And then he started to explain on the basis of Bhagavad Gita that in order to go from one planet to another planet, you have to have specific power. You have to have a specific body. And when you're a living being or a human being on this planet, you cannot go to another planet. It says, according to Bhagavad Gita, that is not possible. And as a matter of fact, he quoted some sections of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that we've been studying about the position of the demigods, that those who worship the demigods, they go to the planet of the demigods. And those who worship Krishna, Mayeva Vihitanitan, those they come to me. And then Prabhupada proceeded to explain, well, the moon is a luminous body. They brought some dead rock. If they've really gone there, why don't they just stay there? And he quoted different parts of different acharyas. They say, no, you cannot go there. And then he quoted this verse from the Brahma Samhita, this Yasya Prabhato, and this word Vibhuti Binnam. Basically, this verse, that there's variegedness in all the different planets of the universe. It is not like lifeless. There is life in all the planets of the universe. And Prabhupada said, according to this, in order to go there, you have to have a suitable body. And Prabhupada went on, and basically, it was actually a very ecstatic time with Srila Prabhupada, especially seeing how convinced he is of the statements of the Shastras, the statements of the scriptures. And later on, as the years went by, Prabhupada made statements that this was made up with some photographic arrangement in some desert somewhere, so many statements. Of course, there's numerous devotees who have criticized Prabhupada's position. As a matter of fact, some scholars, some so-called scholars in this movement, have criticized Prabhupada's position regarding his statements about going to other planets and other things, but specifically with regards to this issue, they didn't like Prabhupada's statements. As far as I'm personally concerned, I see that what Prabhupada has taught in his books, and having had that experience of Prabhupada explaining this in considerable detail, there was one of Prabhupada's servants in 1969 who tried to bring a television in Prabhupada's room because he was so convinced on the basis of the television that they had gone there. And Prabhupada said, no, you cannot go there. And when that servant saw that Prabhupada stuck to his opinion, to his version of events, he left. He abandoned Srila Prabhupada. Because actually, I don't know if everybody on this call knows it, Prabhupada always had a personal servant, one or two, who would tend to various issues that Prabhupada would require them to do. He had a bell on his desk 24 hours a day. Sometimes at night when he was translating his books, he would ring the bell, bring this, bring that, do this, do that. And many of these servants over the years, over various issues, ended up leaving the movement, leaving Srila Prabhupada. There is one place, I just read a lecture today where Srila Prabhupada explained one should never think the spiritual master to be an ordinary human being, although he sometimes behaves like an ordinary human being, unquote. There's another place in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Srila Prabhupada explains that one should stop thinking the spiritual master an ordinary man, which obviously implies that Prabhupada knew that some of his followers and students were already thinking that Prabhupada was like an ordinary man. So one has to be very careful when one approaches the spiritual master or reads the various statements of Srila Prabhupada on different issues, even though it may not conform to our Western indoctrination or what I call being victimized by Western scientific propaganda. Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee, always in touch with Krishna. And whatever he is speaking is directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that conviction can make the disciple advance in spiritual life. If one does not have that conviction about what is a pure devotee, who is being directly in touch with Krishna 24 hours a day, then the spiritual life of that person can be in trouble. One sannyasi once asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, the spiritual master, when he closes his eyes, what does he see? And then Prabhupada put his finger out, he says, that you do not need to ask. So the sannyasi insisted and said, well, Prabhupada, the pure devotee of Krishna, when he closes his eyes, what does he see? Oh, Prabhupada says, yes. The pure devotee of Krishna, when he closes his eyes, he sees the pastimes of Radha Krishna manifested in his heart 24 hours a day. And this is quite amazing because that is the difference between a fully realized, topmost Mahabhagavat, eternally liberated soul, Nitya Siddha, Shaktya-Vesha avatar, specially empowered devotee, and a neophyte, whether it's a Kanishta neophyte or a Madhyam neophyte. The devotees have to be very careful when they deal with Srila Prabhupada, even controversial statements. Last year, I had an experience where a woman devotee started to ask me questions, and she was quite aggressive with regards to certain statements that had been made by Srila Prabhupada regarding position of women and some of Prabhupada's statements. And she said, well, why this, why that? I said, well, you know, you can do yourself some very good by going to Prabhupada's books and take a search engine and look the word woman, treatment of women, position of women, service of women, and look at Prabhupada's statements. This will help you understand the considerable wealth of information that Prabhupada gives on this vast topic, and then this might help to solve the problem. Anyway, I don't want to speak too long today because I realize that we have quite a few devotees here, many of whom probably would like to ask questions or chastisements or comments or questions, and I'll turn the floor over to Vishwakarma Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Yaśodā-nandana, for that excellent reading and discussion on these verses from Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Prabhupada referred here to the Brahma Samhita in these verses, and I just happened to start reading a copy of the Brahma Samhita today, and I wanted to share a little bit of the introduction just so that we get an idea of the information that Prabhupada has delivered to us through himself and his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, which is very exclusive to the devotees of Lord Krishna. In other words, if you're not a devotee, it's impossible to understand this philosophy that's being delivered from the acharyas in our disciplic succession. The origins of the text, I'm just going to read a bit and then a summary of Brahma Samhita for us, just to give us a clue into this great literature that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur delivered. The origins of the text known as the Brahma Samhita were lost in cosmic antiquity. Yes, there it is. According to the Vedic tradition, these hymns of Brahma were recited or sung countless millennia ago by the first created being in the universe. Just prior to the act of creation, the text surfaced and entered calculable history early in the 16th century, when it was discovered by a pilgrim exploring the manuscript library of an ancient temple in what is now Kerala state in South India. Prior to the introduction of the printing press, texts like the Brahma Samhita existed only in manuscript form, painstakingly handwritten by scribes and kept under Brahminical custodianship in temples, where often they were worshipped as Shastra, deity, or God incarnate in Holy Scripture. Very important for us to note this. And the current issue of books that were written by Srila Prabhupada that have been changed by unscrupulous persons. Not a good practice to do. The pilgrim who rescued the Brahma Samhita from obscurity was no ordinary pilgrim, and his pilgrimage was not meant as is the custom for self-purification, but for world purification. He was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saint, mystic, religious reformer, and full incarnation of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, descending into the present epoch of the salvation of all souls. At the time of his discovery of the text, Sri Chaitanya was touring South India, preaching his message of love of God, love of Krishna, and promulgating the practice of Sankirtan, congregational singing of the holy names of God. Sri Chaitanya commenced his tour shortly after becoming a monk, sannyas, at age 24, and the tour lasted approximately 2 years. Now we're going to flip over to the next page, Prabhu. We'll just down in the middle. After discussing esoteric spiritual matters by the devotees there, after discussing spiritual matters among highly advanced devotees present, Sri Chaitanya found one chapter of the Brahma Samhita, which we now have as the Brahma Samhita is, according to tradition, only one of 100 chapters, composing an epic work lost to humanity. Upon discovering the manuscript, Sri Chaitanya felt great ecstasy and fell into an intense mystic rapture that overflowed unto the physical realm, producing a profusion of tears, trembling, and perspiration. We would search the literature of the world in vain to find a case in which the discovery of a lost book inspired such unearthly exhilaration. Intuiting the Brahma Samhita is to be a most valuable jewel. He employed a scribe to hand copying the manuscript and departed with the copy for his return journey to the north. So very valuable treasure he had found. And then moving forward to the third, let me see, I believe it's the third page here, Vinpat Prabhu. We're going to read just a brief, little summary of what is in the Brahma Samhita. So it's just below this, upon his return to Puri Madhya Lila. Keep going down. Keep going. There. Okay. Now, what is the text itself? What are its contents? A synopsis of the Brahma Samhita is provided by Srila Prabhupada, Founder-Ācārya of the Krishna Consciousness movement, in his commentary to the Caitanya-caritāmṛta. It is quoted here. Maybe Venkat, you could read this for us in the Brahma Samhita. Have you got that?
Yeah.
Please read just the summary here. Yeah, please.
Okay.
Go
in
ahead.
Brahma Samhita, the philosophical conclusion of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference, is presented. It also presents methods of devotional service, the 18-syllable Vedic hymn, discourses on the soul, the supersoul, and fruitive activity, an explanation of Kama, Kama Gayatri, Kam Bija, and the original Mahavishnu, and a specific description of the spiritual world, specifically Golok Vrindavan. Brahma Samhita also explains the demigod Ganesha, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the origin of the Gayatri Mantra, the form of Govinda and his transcendental position and abode, the living entities, the highest goal, the goddess Durga, the meaning of austerity, the 5 gross elements, love at Godhead, impersonal Brahman, the initiation of Lord Brahma, and the vision of transcendental love enabling one to see the Lord. The steps of devotional service are also explained. The mind, Yoga Nidra, the goddess of fortune, devotional service in spontaneous ecstasy, incarnations beginning with Lord Ramachandra, deities, the conditioned soul and its duties, the truth about Lord Vishnu, prayers, Vedic hymns, Lord Shiva, Vedic literature, personalism and impersonalism, good behavior, and many other subjects are also discussed. There is also a description of the sun and the universal forms of the Lord. All these subjects are conclusively explained in a nutshell in this Brahma Samhita.
Yes, so very beautiful jewels of knowledge are being delivered to us through Prabhupada's books and his teachings to us on the science of Krishna consciousness. We'll open the floor now for comments or questions, whoever has them. Balaram, do you have any comments you'd like to make or questions? From Australia.
Vanchakalpadrubhascha kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo
Namo
namaha.
Namaha.
Jai. Praying for the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Thank you very much for the wonderful readings and beautiful stories. Always nice to hear stories from Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu regarding the early times with Srila Prabhupada. Here in Australia, we had a little bit of association from 1972 to 1976, and also times in India, very wonderful. I was just a class this morning, Srila Prabhupada class this morning. He stated, the business of the guru is to bring the disciple from darkness into light. Prabhupada said that is the business of guru, to bring the aspiring candidate from darkness to light. And I was just thinking, we're all born into darkness. Om Agyan Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshod Militam Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. We pray that the spiritual master receives our deep obeisances, because he is forcing us to open our eyes to transcendental knowledge. We're all born in the darkness of ignorance, and he's forcing us to open our eyes. If we will only hear his message. The thing is, the message of the spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master, is not different to the mercy of the message of Krishna, Brahma, Narad, whole disciplic succession coming through. And this is the great the value of what we can't underestimate, of what Srila Prabhupada is actually delivering to us. Tadvigyanatam sagurum eva bikaschet. The Mundaka Upanishad says that In order to learn the transcendental science, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. And the bona fide spiritual master is coming in the disciplic succession. And sometimes I was thinking the other day, sometimes there was some dispute. There's difference between the Shiksha Guru and the Diksha Guru, like this. And they say the Shiksha and the Diksha are one. No, they're not. They can be different. But Prabhupada says many times they are one, but the message is the same. This is the thing. The message of the Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, the message is the personality presenting, of course, may be different, but the message is the same. And this is the unchangeable nature of the Parampara. Krishna's message is coming down unadulterated. Of course, we know time, place, and circumstance. There may be some change in the circumstances according to the recipients receiving the transcendental knowledge. Just like we know, Srila Prabhupada, by his mercy, he made so many concessions for us. Concessions in even chanting our rounds. I mentioned the other day, reducing our rounds from 64 down, and even the japa walks that we do. If we read in Vedanta Sutra, Srila Baladev explains that japa should be performed in a sitting position, not lying, not standing, not walking. So Srila Prabhupada has made so many changes in the periphery, in how we present our devotional service, especially in this age of Kali. So I simply implore everyone to hear from Srila Prabhupada, hear his classes, read his books, associate with the devotees who are devoted to spreading Srila Prabhupada's message, because that message is non-different to the message of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So that is simply my humble request. I think if you increase your hearing and chanting, I've experienced that myself, and with other devotees here in Australia that we converse with and explain and relish the philosophy. So that is our process, hearing and chanting. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Balaram. I wanted to mention further that the process of Krishna consciousness is a personal discipline that we all practice according to Prabhupada's instructions. That should be our main focus. A lot of times in these days, with the proliferation of the internet, there's so much information coming out about this person, that person, this disaster, that disaster, this fall down, etc., and specifically in the ISKCON movement. And it can become somewhat consuming, very consuming, and disturbing in many cases. But really, our main focus every day should be on our, like it is with most of us, I can see that, is that we're studying the books carefully. We're making sure we chant our rounds, and taking association with like-minded godbrothers, that have the same mentality, not arguing constantly about this issue or that issue. Yes, those things are there, but when you spend all your time on that, then you miss the real nectar, which is the nectar of Krishna consciousness in the form of the studying of the books, like reading Caitanya-caritāmṛta is fantastic for those that are prepared to do it and constantly read it. And the other books that Prabhupada's given, we have to constantly work at that. Janas Priya in Hawaii, how are you today? What
Hare
time
Krishna.
is it there? What time is it there in Hawaii?
It's time to think of Krishna. Never forget Krishna. 3:11.
3:11 in the afternoon. And how's the weather there?
Yeah, I have a question for all the Vaishnavas.
Yes,
And,
please.
the question is, Which kind of japa is the worst kind of japa?
Okay, I have an answer for that. Jibber jopper.
Okay, anybody else?
Anyone else want to respond?
Dive bomber japper.
Dive bomber japa. Yes, that's another one.
Yeah, anybody else?
Phone japa. You're holding your phone in your hand.
Phone japa.
Okay, we got 3 answers, all very good. The worst kind of japa is the one that is not chanted. If you're not chanting, that's the worst kind of japa. So anything after that is good. Anything after that is good. And Prabhupada gave the example of he chanted japa walking, flying in the plane. He always had the hand in his bead bag when he was giving darshan many times. So Lord Chaitanya says there's no hard and fast rule for chanting the holy name. Of course, we should try to have the best situation, but it's all good. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Yes, absolutely. And we want to, I know some people have felt insulted that we are constantly introducing this principle of chanting your rounds every day, 16 rounds, especially our God brothers that don't chant their rounds. And then they've accused us of running a boot camp. Oh, you're running a boot camp. You're trying to tell people what to do. This isn't a boot camp. This is a meeting of like-minded devotees. And we're trying to remind ourselves that the chanting of Hare Krishna, 16 rounds minimum, is one of the qualifications of initiation, of being a Prabhupada disciple. In other words, if you're a Prabhupada disciple, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu can tell us the story of this devotee that came to Prabhupada, and he wasn't dressed properly. He didn't appear to be carrying out the orders of Srila Prabhupada. And what did Prabhupada say to him? Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu.
Well, Prabhupada said basically, you're not my disciple. In Hawaii in 1974, one devotee came there, paid his obeisance to Prabhupada. He had a beard.
What was his name?
I don't want to give the name.
Okay, don't give the name.
I'm just giving the example. He had a beard,
please.
Long hair, and it was well known that he was not attending the programs. Prabhupada took one look at him, and this person started to speak, and Prabhupada says, "Who are you?" And this person says, "I'm your disciple. My name is such and such." Prabhupada said, "You're not my disciple." And that devotee was pretty stunned. And he told Prabhupada, "Well, you initiated me. You gave me the name such and such date, such and such place." Prabhupada said, "That doesn't matter. If you don't follow my instruction, you're not a disciple." Then Prabhupada pointed out to Guru Kripa Swami and Paramamsa Swami in another area of the room. He says, "This is disciple. Shaven head, tilak, neck beads, chanting 16 rounds, attending the program, participating in the preaching. This is disciple. If you don't do that, you're not disciple." So that devotee kept arguing again, and Prabhupada looked at him, and it was in the evening, and Prabhupada had a cup of milk. In the evening, he would take milk. He slammed the milk on the desk. A little bit of it spilled. Prabhupada says, "I'm an old man. Let me drink my milk. You can go now." So the point is, although somebody may have received the official initiation and have gone through the process, if one does not follow the order of the spiritual master, Prabhupada is not very happy with that. That's why when devotees trying to accuse us of doing a boot camp or trying to micromanage, this is foolishness. Not only is it offensive, but it's foolish. It just displays a gross ignorance of Prabhupada's instruction and of Prabhupada's request to all his disciples to follow his instruction. Just recently, somebody contacted me and said, "Well, it's Prabhupada, he knew about this and he knew about that. Well, why did he keep these leaders and why did he do that?" And I told him a story. When Prabhupada came to Honolulu, Hawaii in 1974, at one point, We drove Prabhupada from the airport to the Honolulu temple on Coil Way. And Srila Prabhupada was in the back. Guru Kripa was on the one side, I was on the other side. And Prabhupada says, why do you think I've been successful? So I said to Prabhupada, well, you're a pure devotee. Guru Kripa said, you're a Mahabhagavad. Prabhupada said, no. He says, the reason I've been successful is because I did not engage in illicit sex and breaking the principles like all these other swamis. That's why. It says, I tell my disciples that if you follow my instruction and chant 16 rounds and follow these principles, you will go back to God at the end. But they don't follow. Many of them will not follow. Then Prabhupada put his hand up in the air like this. He says, what can I do? I give him the instruction. They don't follow the instruction. And he says, what am I supposed to do? So these baseless accusations that some people say, oh, Prabhupada knew that some kids were not being treated properly, or that the devotees, well, Prabhupada did what he could. Prabhupada is not Krishna. He's not God. He gave the instruction. He gave some reprimand. He gave things what not to do, what to do. And if the devotees don't follow, it is not Srila Prabhupada's fault. One thing I wanted to address, in one of our previous classes, we discussed about hearing Prabhupada's tape chanting the japa when somebody chants. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a very important purport in the 4th canto. This is 4th canto, chapter 20, text 25. 4th canto, chapter 20, text number 25, second paragraph. Srila Prabhupada says, a pure devotee always engages in the service of the Lord, taking shelter of his lotus feet, and therefore he has a direct connection with these saffron mercy particles that are strewn over the lotus feet of the Lord. Although when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of this material sky, the voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. As soon as a sleeping living entity hears the powerful voice emanating from the mouth of a pure devotee, he immediately remembers his eternal relationship with the Lord, although up until that moment he had forgotten everything. For a conditioned soul, therefore, it is very important to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord without any material desire, speculative knowledge, or contamination of the modes of material nature. Every one of us is kuyogi because we have engaged in the service of this material world, forgetting our eternal relationship with the Lord as his eternal loving servants. It is our duty to rise from the kuyoga platform to become suyogis, perfect mystics. The process of hearing from a pure devotee is recommended in all Vedic scriptures, especially by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One may stay in his position of life, it does not matter what it is, but if one hears from the mouth of a pure devotee, he gradually comes to the understanding of his relationship with the Lord and thus engages in his loving service, and his life becomes completely perfect. Therefore, this process of hearing from the mouth of a pure devotee is very important for making progress in the line of spiritual understanding. Again, this was from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20, Text 25. It's important to note that in various letters, Prabhupada says hearing, reading the book is just like the same as hearing, but hearing the voice of the pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada is very, very powerful. I see on this call there's a devotee who goes by the name Tim Lee. It's actually Puranjan Das. I don't know if you're there. If you'd like to make any comments, Prabhu. Puranjan, are you hearing? Hello? I guess he might not be there.
Might not be there.
I wanted to ask Rathayatra Prabhu what he thought of that purport we just read from Srimad Bhagavatam.
Haribo?
Haribo, Puranjan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Go ahead. Just wonder if you'd like to make a comment.
Well, Yeah, I'm just enjoying the class, and you know, I haven't really participated before, so I just wanted to see how it goes, and I really like it. I like going back to the old days
Well,
of Prabhupada's
very
original,
nice.
you know, the hard work that he did to get everything started. It was such a struggle for him, and we really appreciate that more when we read the things he was writing at the time, and you know, the interactions and dealings he was having, and
Nice.
it's very nice. Yeah. So yeah, I like it. I like what you're doing. I'm just kind of chilling out personally, you know, and listening right now.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll go to Rath-Yatra in a minute. I've been reading Caitanya-caritāmṛta as well, moving forward. We're in Madhya Lila. I came across Yaśodā Prabhu, a really profound purport which dealt with the principles of Mahajan. That's what Prabhupada, or Mahatma. What is a Mahajan, or what is Mahatma? He said Prabhupada says in the purport on text 185, chapter 17 of Madhya Lila, text 185, chapter 17 of text 185, he goes, in the material world, the word Mahatma is understood in different ways by different religionists. Mundaners also come up with their different angles of vision. For the conditioned soul busy in sense gratification, a Mahajan is recognized according to the proportion of sense gratification he offers. For instance, a businessman may consider a certain banker to be a Mahajan, and the karmis desiring material enjoyment may consider philosophers like Jaimini to be Mahajans. There are many yogis who want to control the senses, and for them, Patanjali Rishi is a Mahajan. For the Gyanis, the atheists, Pila, Vishishta, Durvasa, Dattatreya, and other important philosophers are Mahajans. For the demons, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana's son, Meghanada, Jarasandha, and others are accepted as Mahajans. For materialistic anthropologists speculating on the evolution of a body, a person like Darwin is a Mahajan. So Prabhupada's giving all those examples. He goes below the verse there, he goes, men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, praise these men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. And then right at the end of the purport, which is page 105, Srimad Bhagavatam, let's see if we can get this here. I thought this was really relevant to what Yaśodā Prabhu was saying and the other ones. Srimad Bhagavatam states there are 12 Mahajans: Bhima, Narada, Sambhu, Kumara, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Sukadeva, and Yamaraj. To select our Mahajans in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives. That's a very high standard. His next representative is Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami, and the next are the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rupa, Sri Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva, Gopala Bhatta, Dasa Raghunath. The follower of Vishnu Swami was Sridhar Swami, the most well-known commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. He was also a Mahajan. Similarly, Chandidasa, Vidyapati, and Jayadev were all Mahajans. One who tries to imitate, pose, posture, pretend, the Mahajans, just to become an imitative spiritual master, is certainly far away from following in the footsteps of the Mahajans. Sometimes people cannot actually understand how a Mahajan follows all other Mahajans. In this way, people are inclined to fall from devotional service. Very interesting. And in this particular case, we find that some people, we're in a bit of a discussion with one of our god brothers in New Vrindavan, who's advocating the promotion of everyone should be a guru. All the Prabhupada disciples, they should just become gurus. That the women should be gurus. So the standard here is given in Caitanya-caritāmṛta to follow in the footsteps of Swarup Damodar Goswami, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, etc., etc. And so one should be very careful before they undertake this particular role in the Krishna Consciousness movement and the advancement of the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya. Rathayatra Prabhu in South India. Are you there? Yes, you are. How's everything in South India today?
It's early morning. It's very nice.
Yes.
And I wish to offer my humble obeisances to all the devotees online and to the future devotees who are going to hear this class. You're in the right place. Yeah, Mahatma. I mean, I'm a dog. I mean, I was raised eating meat. And how can I even think of becoming a guru and helping others get out of this world? I mean, it's just ridiculous how the institution took this to another level. But we don't need them anymore. I don't want to imitate Prabhupada and all this in our line of parampara. And this is what I carry with me. You can see this device here. You put it on my neck. I always chant with Srila Prabhupada. In fact, before I even chant, I like to hear Prabhupada chant for a while. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. And for us that had experience with Srila Prabhupada, when I was with Prabhupada, he was always chanting. If he wasn't chanting, he was talking about Krishna. This is the Mahatma. He was tuned in, and we can tune in today with the technology. Always chant your rounds for Srila Prabhupada, that pure devotee. And then when you're chanting, you can see how the pure devotee's voice just merges in with you. You can get a taste of it once in a while, and then you just go on and on. And yes, we must, like Balaram said, we must sit down. We must chant seriously with our rounds. I mean, I don't even turn on the Wi-Fi before I'm done with these rounds. And that's why I came in late. I apologize for that. But I want to be tuned in with my chanting before the sun rises. This is the best way to do it. Imagine Srila Prabhupada. I was thinking this morning. Prabhupada had his rounds done. He was up at 2 a.m. Well, he barely slept, but he did his rounds. He did his Gayatri. Another thing, too, the Gayatri for us Brahmins is very important. Om, Bhur, Purva. You must hear each sound. Like when Prabhupada, I was lucky to have Prabhupada give me my Gayatri. And that's what he did. He let me repeat each word slowly. And then I was looking at it. And so that connection, hearing from the spiritual master, we have it today through technology. And an example is, I went on Krishna.com and I paid 350 rupees for the recordings of Srila Prabhupada giving Gayatri. So what I did, I listened to Prabhupada every day for a year doing the Gayatri mantra, then I do my Gayatri. So I had the connection again with Prabhupada. And we can do that with this technology. And for the future devotees taking Brahmin initiation, just that pure devotee, giving us the mantra, that's a secret for us to become out of this material body. That's the only way. Like I said, I grew up eating meat, and I had struggled through the years, but I continue to stay with Srila Prabhupada. That's why we should never leave Prabhupada or think he's an ordinary man. And I'm very grateful that I'm in South India, on top of a mountain of all places. Beautiful hearing and chanting without no humans around. It's the way to do it, I'm telling you. But only because I always stuck with Prabhupada, and I tried to chant my rounds very good. And he's the Mahatma. I am not. I am a low-class fool number one, trying to get the mercy of the Prabhupada, because by the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. That's why I must remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should always remember and praise my spiritual master. I do it many times a day. I'm so thankful, because where would I be right now? Where would all of us be without that mercy of the spiritual master giving us this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And before I chant this mantra, I must thank Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, help me, Sri Advaita, Galadhar, Srivas, and all those aligned in pure devotion, my humble basis. There's that connection. The Mahatmas are the only way we can get out of this material body. And I do not want to come back again. This world is crazy. Very bold.
Nice. Very nice.
All respects to everybody. Jai Prabhupada.
Yaśodā, yes.
I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, Balaram Prabhu from Australia, he sent out an email, which I re-forwarded to all kinds of people, regarding this issue of who can be a guru or a shiksha or diksha guru, and what is the real meaning of that verse from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that you all become gurus. There's 2 specific verses in Caitanya-caritāmṛta. One of them, Jaridako Kaiko Krishna Upadesh Amaranya, you become a guru. Go everywhere you go, you become a guru. And he pointed out in a lecture from Srila Prabhupada that he cited, Prabhupada, the process is simple. Stay wherever you are, read Bhagavad Gita, read Bhagavatam, perform kirtan. In this way, Prabhupada explained, in this way, you become spiritual master. In other words, Prabhupada has made things very simple. I wanted to make very quickly a point. In 1976, in October, there was a devotee named Chaitanya Prabhu. He was an Indian devotee in Chandigarh, North India, and he arranged a very nice program for Srila Prabhupada, very well organized, and he invited all kinds of journalists. And there was a press conference where Srila Prabhupada quoted these same verses from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, telling all these journalists that they should become gurus, that they were born in India, Bharat Bhumite Oila Janmusya Jar, that you engage in this welfare work of spreading the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by giving the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. But these people were not even initiated. They were not even full-fledged devotees. And Prabhupada is telling them, you become a guru. I mean, Prabhupada, especially with Indian people of Indian origin, he was very much on this point that you've been born in a very favorable, special circumstance. Learn the philosophy, learn the training, and give it to others. At some point, maybe Balaram Prabhu can find that nice article that he had and re-forward it again. It was a very, very nice. It had a lecture from Srila Prabhupada and a very nice explanation of the real meaning when Srila Prabhupada is explaining what does that mean to become a spirit. Because many of Prabhupada's statements with regards to become a spiritual master are general statements with regards to teaching, guiding, counseling, shiksha. As far as a diksha, that requires special authorization and order from the spiritual master originally. As a matter of fact, when Prabhupada was analyzing in his poetry at the Radha Damodar temple in the late 1950s and early 60s, at one point he says, if everyone initiates, as long as everyone initiates, there will be failure. There will be a contradictory result. Because in order to initiate somebody, a person has to be properly authorized. And that's why Srila Prabhupada set up a system that he would be the initiator, requesting his disciples to act as representative, to do that service for him. It is not difficult to understand if there is no personal motivation for the pod problem. Now, I'm not referring to the Prabhupada Anti-Defamation Association, which our good friend Paranjan is actively still working on. I'm referring to the pod problem, profit, adoration, and distinction. If that desire is not there, it's not very difficult. It's not complicated to understand. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I wanted to, by the way, I wanted to announce that we've surpassed 4,000 members on our Facebook group page, Prabhupada Disciples Association today. And it's expanding progressively. So please invite your friends and people that are interested in getting information that use that medium, for example, to join us there. And there's lots of great posts that have come up. I put one up today from our friend in Vrindavan, India. This devotee, Nityananda, he's originally from South Africa, very sincere book distributor, preacher. And he moved from South Africa, he moved to Vrindavan to stay there and, be part of the Vrindavan Leela for himself and his own personal advancement. I'll read it to you, and you can get the information. This is from our friend Nityananda Prabhu, now living in Vrindavan. There are some very good quotes in this post, friends. Hare Krishna, 16 rounds minimum, Prabhupada Disciples Ki Jai. How pseudo-devotees behave when a fact finder points out a fact in Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON, he says, regarding the GBC leaders and mismanagement. As soon as we say that Srila Prabhupada is the only bona fide spiritual master and quality guru in his own ISKCON, which he founded, and that there is no reference or evidence for self-appointed or voted-in gurus, according to Guru Shastra and Shastra, and all these misbehaved fallen gurus are bogus. This is how their brainwashed disciples act. Not to mention being them, sorry. Not to mention being them calling fact finders aparadhes, and Ritvik, officiating priests, as to insult the fact finders who are in fact the real preachers of Srila Prabhupada's original books and teachings in his Vani. Prabhupada said, here are the quotes. The public, they do not know what is the meaning of guru. The cheaters, they get the opportunity of becoming false gurus. That's a lecture in Vrindavan. On November 6, 1976. The so-called Surdu Guru, false guru, should be killed. Lecture on the Bhagavad Gita, August 5th, 1973 in London. Here's Vrindavan, October 3rd, 76. If we accept guru, a bogus guru, there is no benefit. Guru means Krishna's representative, not that everyone can be guru. Lecture, Srimad Bhagavatam, 712, Bombay, April 13th, 1976. But if you have so-called bogus guru and without any knowledge of the Shastra, then your life will be spoiled. June 28th, answers to a questionnaire from Bhavan's journal, June 28th, 1976 in Vrindavan. If one does not say on the standard of Krishna, then he's not guru, he's a bogus. Here's from the Bhavan Journal, June 28th, 76. But take the real guru, but if you go to the bogus guru, you must be disappointed. Here's Mayapur, a letter to Amoga. Mayapur, this is February 18th, 1976. Simply by bluffing words, these bogus gurus and yogis are actually accomplishing nothing. And here's the Srimad Bhagavatam lecture in Mayapur in 1976, February 14th. If one does not say on the standard of Krishna, then he's not guru, he's bogus. Oh, excuse me. But simply by bluffing words, these bogus gurus and yogis are actually accomplishing nothing. First of all gurus must be bona fide, not a bogus guru. The guru as specified by Lord Chaitanya. That is not very difficult. Who is guru? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, he is guru, one who's strictly following the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after following him, he's just delivering the instruction as Krishna has said. Then you become guru. It is not difficult. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered everyone. Therefore, our process is to follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then try to understand Krishna's instructions. So these are various quotes, Yaśodā, that this Prabhu put up because there's some kind of, problems in the ISKCON center in Vrindavan about distribution of prasadam, and he's putting up these quotes because really the root cause of most of the trouble is this disobedience of the spiritual master on how one should become guru. Prabhupada never appointed a guru. Yes, Yaśodā.
I believe there's a devotee on this call, Bhakta Ron Singh.
Yes.
I think last week, one of our classes, he made a comment that Prabhupada left a lot of different directions for the management of his society with regards to the BBT, with regards to temple presidents, with regard to GBCs. And he alluded to the fact that many of these various instructions have been either neglected or disobeyed. Bhakta Ron, are you there? Are you able to comment? Hello? Maybe.
He dropped
Sometimes
off. He
it's
was
not
on the class. We're a little bit over time, everyone, but oh yeah, there he is. Dr. Ron Singh, can you speak, or are you at work? I know Ron works as a security guard for the bank, so sometimes he can't come to the call.
Okay.
Anyone else with Balaram Prabhu? Yes. Anyone else that's got a question or comment, please step up.
Hi, Bo.
Put up your, who's this?
This is Branjan.
Oh, Brajan, go ahead.
Branjan, yeah. I wanted to say I have a newsletter, Krishna 1008, blogspot.com. Right now I have 3, 4, sometimes 5,000 views per day. And a lot of devotees read it. A lot of GBC people read it. I can see which countries are reading, and I got a lot of number one is always America, then India, and then it varies, Australia, Canada, England.
Okay.
But so if anybody has any news or any preaching story or any books for sale or any kind of thing that they want to advertise, or departed devotees, I'm putting a lot of departed devotee stories up. Anything that's of interest to the devotee community that you think is interesting, or your own preaching program you want to advertise, just send.
Of course, we want to advertise it, Prabhu. Of course, we want to. This
Sure,
we're doing 3 classes a week, by the way. Wednesday nights,
right.
and then Caitanya-caritāmṛta. We have over 100 classes on YouTube, our YouTube channel. Lots of different programs that we're doing. So, any assistance that you can give us is greatly appreciated. Haribol.
Well, the best thing to do is to make a small advertising blurb of what you want advertised, all your links, all your different stuff with a little description, and send it to me, and then I can just post up whatever you send me.
Okay, what can you put in your contact information on the chat, or?
No, we have it.
Oh, okay. So I'll get our team to send you off the stuff that we're doing.
Send me a little
Thank you.
advertising, and that's for anybody. Anybody can send me a little information package, put links on there, whatever you got, pictures, photos, links, and I'll
Good.
post it.
Thank you. I mean, that's what we want. We're trying to get the message out.
I wanted to mention one other thing.
Please.
A TV show will be coming out in around October, November. I'm going to be on that show. It's a 4-part series. It's going to be very detailed. and it's going to really get into the post-1978 history of ISKCON.
Oh,
And all-
great.
Yeah, it's going to give a lot of the, what was Prabhupada trying to do and how that got derailed, is basically the theme. And they've been asking me for a title for the show, so.
Whereabouts are you located, Prabhu?
I'm near San Francisco,
Oh,
California.
okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. And is the show going to be a YouTube presentation or?
No, it's going to be on a huge national television network.
No way.
I don't want to give the details
Fascinating.
yet, but
We're
they
very
estimate
interested. Pardon?
at least 23 million people will view the show. They estimate.
23 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great news. We're also producing a show here in our association for people that are interested, which will be a documentary. Vinkat, explain what the first show is going to be, just so people will know.
Sure.
Yep.
The first show is planned. It's about the history of what Srila Prabhupada intended for the how initiation should go on after his physical departure. So how it was misinterpreted and all that. So there are a lot of devotees, especially who follow, ISKCON, who have no idea about all these things. So we're trying to make a documentary, a very, very potent documentary with all the evidence and everything in one place. So that's what we're working on.
Yeah. So, Paranjan, that's also on our agenda. We have a large agenda of projects with our media team. We have 8 members on our media team. We meet once a week, and we're, step by step, we're working at it. It's a big job.
Whenever something's ready to come down the pipeline, just send it to me, and I'll get it. I'll shoot it out there, and everybody can see it.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, that's what it is. Yaśodā, yes, Prabhu.
I think that what he was referring to his blog, where all the information is, it's Krishna, Krishna 1008. Anybody can go on the internet and look at that, and people can write to him. He also has an email address as angel108b@yahoo.com. That's ANGEL 108B, B as in baby, or B as in Bhagavan, @yahoo.com, and communicate with him. Any news they have, and we'll be more than happy to put them up.
Excellent. That's excellent. Vinkat, maybe you could put it up on the chat if you have his contact. There it is. There.
We go.
So these are good opportunities to get further information on the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya from many varied angles of vision. Yes, Balaram Prabhu. We're going on here right now. We're a little over the class time, but we're going to keep going, and then we'll wrap her up in due course. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, always having a look in at Paranjan's blog. Very nice, thank you. I just wanted to very quickly confirm to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu that I have got that class on file, so I'll post that. But the other thing was that we never seem to discuss is the, not for a big discussion here, but Vatma Pradashak Guru, one who introduces one to Krishna. I mean, we're out there, we're distributing books. We're not necessarily, Prabhupada said, we're not preaching to someone when we're distributing a book they can't understand anyway. Just give them a book. That is introducing someone to Krishna. When we're out chanting, they're hearing. We're not Shiksha Gurus at that stage. We're not instructing them. But the Vatma Pradashak Guru is someone who introduces someone to Krishna. I have a Vatma Pradashak Guru who is not a devotee in ISKCON or was in ISKCON, but in 1967 in Australia, before ISKCON came to Australia, he had Radha Krishna deities that he was a surfer and he'd come from California. And he brought little Radha Krishna deities, and he showed me those deities in 1967. And so I consider him a great soul who he chants Hare Krishna still, and he's so that's the third type. There's Bhatmata Pradashak Guru, Shiksha Guru, and Diksha Guru. So I think most of our preaching work, especially in to the masses, just like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was saying with these reporters, is still Bhatmata Pradashak. Just introduce someone to some aspect of Krishna consciousness, and the seed will take hold. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Venkat. Thank you, Balaram.
Yes, Prabhu. Just to add to that, I think I was reading from people who try to justify that Srila Prabhupada wants everyone to be Guru, Lord Chaitanya wants everyone to become Guru. They interpret that as Diksha Guru. But I think it's more that they, Srila Prabhupada wants us to be Vartma Pradarshaka Guru. He wants us to just show people, distribute the books and bring people to Srila Prabhupada. And even in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, even Shiksha Guru is a very high standard, right? Because it says that actually there's no difference, and eventually Shiksha Guru goes on to become the Diksha Guru. So yeah, I think it's clear that Srila Prabhupada wants us to be Vartma Pradarshaka Guru.
Exactly, and it's up to each one of us to follow the process carefully and set good example. Whatever great men do, common men will follow. So there are many good devotees, great devotees in our association, and we can keep on encouraging the new and the older devotees to keep strict on the path back home, back to Godhead, by following these principles that Prabhupada has given us in his books. Any last comments that people have today on the class? It's been an active conversation. I do really appreciate everybody who joined us today at the Caitanya-caritāmṛta reading. And I wanted to remind everyone that on Saturday morning at 10 a.m., we have Bhagavad Gita reading, Bhagavad Gita as it is. Very exciting chapter we're in, chapter 7. And on Sunday, Srimad Bhagavatam, class from the original 62 Delhi version, which is absolutely magnificent. And throughout the week, you can be in touch with us. If you could put up Yaśodā-nandana's email address, Venkat, please, on the screen. Yaśodā-nandana's Prabhu's email address. People can reach out to him if they have any questions of philosophy they want to ask him. He's a dynamo of information, constantly working at top speed every day in this mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. Like many of you, there's his email address. So you can send him an email and he'll send you back any answers that you require to his questions on philosophy and give you references otherwise. And also, Venkat, if you could put up your email address and the Prabhupada Disciple one, please be in touch with Venkat as well. If you want to be added in to our notices for the classes, because I on my phone here, I'm constantly getting the notices the day of the class. It's fantastic. Venkat is doing a class A1 class service for this to remind us to attend the class. Otherwise, you lose the pace. It's like working out. If you don't work out all the time, then all the muscles go away. So this is the spiritual workout of the Prabhupada Disciples Association. So you can also send the names of any people that you want on this our invitation list to him, because we want to expand what we're doing. Just like Paranjana offered that opportunity with his blog. So we'll take advantage of that, or anyone else that in your particular Balaram, if you have a network you're developing in the network that you're involved in Australia and New Zealand. There's this devotee, I think it's a Nutama in Australia. Seems like a very good person. There are all kinds of networks.
Yeah, there's a Hanuman in
Hanuman.
New Zealand. Yeah, I've had a little contact with him just starting.
Yeah, I think if once people get the idea of what the class is about, how really great the format is for all of us to keep motivated in our devotional service through association with each other, then it will spread prolific, virally. And that's what we want to do, everyone. Let's not be simply passive. This is a real format for reaching people. It really is. And think about it, Balaram. When we had our temples, right? How many days in the morning did you have 50 people at your class? At once.
Sometimes more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we did. I mean, but morning Bhagavatam times, that's a lot. But, in a lot of the temples here in the West, there aren't very many people at their class. They have like 3 or 4 people nowadays. So we've got 50 attentive people on all the different mediums listening. And we want to proliferate that. We want to expand that by, developing the network through your network and through Rathiyatra's network and through Paranjan's network and all the centers of influence that are on this, which are the devotees that are on this association Zoom meeting. So like that, we can keep going.
I just wanted to say that most temples have 2 or 3 devotees, and that's counting the cat.
2 or 3, it's true, eh? It's quite. Yaśodā-nandana, Prabhu, you have a comment, please.
Before we conclude, I wanted to read a paragraph from Prabhupada's Caitanya-caritāmṛta. This is in Madhya-lila, chapter 25, text number 9. Chapter 25, text number 9. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur then comments, without being empowered by the direct potency of Lord Krishna to fulfill his desire, and without being specifically favored by the Lord, no human being can become the spiritual master of the whole world. He certainly cannot succeed by mental concoction, which is not meant for devotees or religious people. Only an empowered personality can distribute the holy name of the Lord and enjoin all fallen souls to worship Krishna. By distributing the holy name of the Lord, he cleanses the hearts of the most fallen people. Therefore, he extinguishes the blazing fire of the material world. Not only that, he broadcasts the shining brightness of Krishna's effulgence throughout the world. Such an Acharya or spiritual master should be considered non-different from Krishna. That is, he should be considered the incarnation of Lord Krishna's potency. Such a personality is Krishna Lingita Vigraha. That is, he is always embraced by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Such a person is above the considerations of the Varnashram institution. He is the guru or spiritual master for the entire world, a devotee on the topmost platform, the Mahabhagavata stage, and the Paramamsa Thakur, a spiritual master only fit to be addressed as Paramamsa or Thakur. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Okay, let's move to the kirtan, the 1960, early 60s kirtan that Venkat plays for us. Chant along, everyone, and then we'll offer our humble obeisances to each other.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Shoda.
Jai!
Jai Pandit.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Rathayatra. Blissful. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on Saturday morning if you can make it, depending on your time zone. We look forward to the next class. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vijaya
Hare
Pandit.
Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Robert Barrett. Thank you.